How's it going, guys? Today I will be comparing the Pixel 5 versus the Huawei P30, the regular one, not the Pro. And I know the P30 is a pretty old phone by now, but it's one of the last phones or last Huawei phones that has Google services. So I will say for now, for under casual use, I would still recommend the Huawei P30 if it still works for you. So starting off with the hardware, I would say the Pixel is very easy and simple looking. It's not too offensive and it doesn't capture too much attention. I really like the matte finish look and feel of the phone. It's probably one of the only phones in a long time where I want to use this phone without a case. On the P30, I really love the color combo. I think it's beautiful. I really like the gradient fade to the white to purple, and it's just a stunning phone. I do like how both of these phones look. They're kind of like the opposites. Both look good. One's clean and minimal. One is just strikingly beautiful. Now for the button placement, I do like the P30 better because of the power button is lower. So when I'm holding the phone, my thumb is naturally sitting there. So I don't have to use a lot of effort reaching for the power button like I do on the Pixel 5. The Pixel do have a fingerprint scanner, which is really good at a good location, whereas on the P30 is on screen. It doesn't work the best, but for the most part, I use the Face ID to go in or get into the phone anyways. The Face ID works really well during daytime or with some light like this, but if you're in a really dark place like a bar or even at nighttime when you're about to go to sleep in your room without any lights on, most likely it's not going to work. Now holding these phones are very comfortable, especially if you have smaller hands since they are small phones. Now I would say that the Pixel 5 is a bit more comfortable to hold because it's just a tad bit shorter, so you don't really have to reach really high to just pull down your notification center or reach anything on top of the screen. Now for performance, they both are really smooth. For everyday use, they still both feel the same to me, even though the Huawei P30 is pretty old. When I'm just going through my social media, scrolling around, watching videos, or even taking pictures on my Instagram stories, they feel very smooth. So for me, I feel like unless you really need a performance upgrade, then I would say it's not worth upgrading. Now for the Pixel 5, it is on a budget processor, so it's not the best one, but it's still fine for everyday use. Unless you are a gamer or you're always on your smartphone using heavy apps, then I would say that you would probably need to get a better phone. And for most people out there doing the normal stuff, both of these phones are still fine doing the everyday tasks. Now for battery life, both are really great. For me, Huawei is always known for like having good battery efficiency, and maybe they're just more aggressive with their apps. But overall, like both these phones are pretty good at battery, so I can easily get a day and a half with these, no problem. Now the Pixel do have the bigger capacity, so if you do want the longer lasting phone, then the Pixel is the way to go. Now for software, I use Google everything, so that's gonna be my natural pick. So for me, there's no bloatware on this phone. Now I would say the Google Pixel UI is very simple and clean and easy to use, but sometimes it can be too simple and a lot of people want more options. So I would say the EM UI on the P30 is a bit more flexible than the Pixel, but for me, it's not my favorite one. The P30 does have their own software, which I don't use, so more bloatware for me. And the biggest factor, or the biggest thing I don't like about it is I cannot swipe down to get to my notification center. I would have to pull down from the very top. It's one of the few Androids that does this, so I'm just not used to it. It's something that I would think them every time I use EMUI.
So starting off with portrait mode, I gotta say the Pixel is gonna be the clear winner here. The P30 looks pretty dreamy and the colors aren't that realistic. A huge pro on a Pixel, it has night mode in portrait mode, so you actually look exposed. Now, it may not look the best or has the best image quality, but at least you can still see yourself at night. Now for the back cameras, you do have multiple ones, and the thing that I noticed that taking pictures on the P30 is that the colors changes. This is not consistent. So the color temperature pretty much changes on the P30. It can be too warm or too cool. Because the P30 does have a telephoto lens, you can actually use that in portrait mode or aperture mode. You can get a closer up shot without losing too much quality. With the Pixel, you would just have to zoom in using the main sensor. But my overall portrait mode experience, they're both very easy to use. You just tap, point, and shoot, and it does all the work for you. For the back cameras, the P30 is more flexible because of that telephoto lens, so on the UI you can actually zoom in from wide, regular, 3x, and then 5x, and if you want to, you can go up to 30x. 30x is clearly not going to look great, but it is useful if you want to see or read something from far away. On a Pixel, you don't have a telephoto lens, but you can zoom in up to 2x for a quick shortcut, but I hate that you would have to pinch zoom in on the screen to get up to 7x, which is another step I would have to do. And when you're taking pictures on a Pixel and you want to look at them right after, you do have to wait a bit for it to process. And if you do take a night mode picture or a portrait mode, it's going to take longer, so during this process, it doesn't feel too premium or a flagship phone. But to me, I think it's worth the wait just because of the consistent pictures and the quality of it. Now for low light shots, I would say the ultra wide angle lens is better on the Pixel, but on the main camera, the P30 clearly looks better. When you start to zoom in and use the telephoto lens on a P30, it's like meh compared to the software and how Google does things with its pictures. Now the big experience change on the Pixel is that it does have auto night mode now. So when I'm walking around, I can just use it. I don't really have to think about it and it's automatically on if it's too dark. So I don't have to switch to any other modes or having the UI tell me to switch to night mode. It's just a more pleasant UI to use while I'm strolling around trying to take pictures in the dark. Now for night mode, the Pixel seems to be the brighter picture here, and on the P30, sometimes the brightness doesn't really get brighter, the color just changes. Now for the ultra wide angle lens, I would say the stabilization is better on the Pixel. It's really smooth when I'm panning around and walking. Also the HDR is better, as you can tell looking at the sky, you can still see the blue on the Pixel. Now one thing I'm not a fan of on the Pixel is that how aggressive the white balance changes. As I'm panning around, you can tell that it shifts from really orange or very warm to going back to a bit more neutral. For the main camera, I would say the Pixel would be the main winner for me. It does have a better image, you can see better in the shadows. On the P30, the stabilization is better than the ultra wide angle lens, but it's still not as smooth as the Pixel. Another note, the Pixel can shoot up to 4K 60, so if you want to do some slow motion shots, you can. On the P30, you can only shoot up to 4K 30. Now for low light, here's a little bit different on both. Because it does have a higher shutter speed on the Pixel, the image does look sharper, and that's why you can see a lot more blurrier images on the P30. And because of the higher shutter speed, it's obviously a bit darker on the Pixel, but it really depends on which one you do like better. Either way, they're not the best at low light shooting.
In the end, I think the P30 is still a good phone. If you're just a casual user doing everyday things, then I don't really see a big reason why you want to upgrade. I think the camera is probably going to be the biggest reason, but if there's nothing wrong with the P30, I would just stick with it. Now for me, if I have to choose, I would go with the Pixel just because I do use Google everything and I just love using the UI and of course the great camera. So those are just my thoughts using these two phones. I hope you guys find this helpful, and if you do, please like. You can find me and follow me on Instagram. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.